What is going on, my friends? It is Wednesday. It is Wednesday, December 28th, 2016. We're almost to the New Year's, and I'm happy to be here, feeling fresh, feeling good. Today I wanted to talk about some interesting things that have been on my mind, which is typically what I talk about. But more specifically, today I want to talk about entrepreneurship and some aspects of entrepreneurship that inevitably come up, especially when you're starting, and when you're really kind of, I guess I would say, things that you have to face when you're really like moving from a place of like working for other people to working for yourself, or like people working for you. And so that's kind of what I've been confronting lately. Just to give you guys a background story or perspective, about 2 years ago, I want to say maybe like probably about 3 years. No, technically 2 years ago, I was doing basically full-time freelance work, and over a period of like a couple of years, I had developed skills to be able to do like video editing and like filming. And what else? And graphic design and motion graphics. Basically, those are the main things that I had like developed. And basically, I started providing services for that about 2 years ago. And then through that time, I ended up taking on a job doing social media. And through that, basically, over the last few years, I learned a lot of different things to add to my repertoire. And basically, over those 2 years, my focus is really I loved getting to a place where I was like doing the freelance gig, and then I loved getting to a place where I was like working for like a mass media for a while and really getting to that. But what I really desired, was to work for myself, because I knew that one, I was capable of it, and it's something I've always wanted to do, and two, it's something that I'm honestly good at in terms of I tend to be very good at committing to things when there's people involved, and there's a responsibility towards people, or providing a service to someone else, or providing value to someone else, and when it's like my responsibility, and it's on basically like my time, my hour. Anyway, so that's kind of like how that's kind of been my focus lately, is on getting to that place. Basically, I want to say probably like a month ago, my job doing the social media gig, it was like a full-time gig, that ended. And so basically it gave me an opportunity to really focus like 100% on developing my own business that would ultimately support myself and then support other people as well. And so before, a couple months back, I ended up connecting with my roommate, actually, and he does video production. And so one of the things that we've been starting to do is work doing local video production jobs. So that's been really great, because being online is fine, but there's a point at which it's like, okay, like I want to have like a real interaction, and doing the live, local Austin-based video production jobs are really great, because you do get to have that interaction, and it's a totally different experience. But at the same time, through like my social media gig, I did develop a bunch of different skills and awareness of different things, and I figured out that I was very, very good at like managing bigger projects, or like being able to produce a certain amount of content. And so through that, I realized that like another service I could provide is social media. And so basically with those two in the balance, I have like something that's like live and in person, local, and then I have something that's like internet, non-local, and working with different people, and they don't necessarily have to be in Austin or in America, which is really great. So anyways, that's been part of my journey, and basically where I've been at recently is basically figuring out like how does like a pay structure work? Like me and my buddy Joe, we're like going into the local video production gig as like partners, and so it's just like, well, how do we deal with expenses? How do we pay each other? Like, what's fair? He's more of like the engineer, like technically minded, and I'm technical too, but like I'm more so like marketing and like bookkeeping focused. So it's like, well, how does that work? How does that balance? And that's just something, it's something that it's like you can only figure it out through experience, really. But but I think the main thing that I've been really focusing on as of recently in terms of payment is paying other people. And that's kind of just like one of the things with like with social media. It's like you do have to produce a significant amount of content, and if I'm going to be doing like local gigs, like it's just I can't always handle like doing all this content at once. So basically I do need to hire people to help like with that process. So basically my thing has been like, well, it's just like how do I know how much to pay someone? Also questions are like, how do I know how much I should get paid from like my clients, and then figuring out like, whoa, it's okay. So if I have this much, and I can give this person this much, and I get this much. What's fair to me? What's fair to this people I'm working for? What's fair to the client that I'm working for? How can I show value, but also like give value and receive value that's like in a fair and equal exchange. Basically, all these questions, are coming up. It's just like a ton of questions, and I think the bottom line is that it's like it's just something that you just need to do and figure out, and you can get advice from people. So what good rates are if there is like a very like niche market that people are aware of, which is something that we did when we started our video production gig. We had friends that were in the market with that and just gave us a better perspective. But when it's something that like social media, where it is a bit more difficult to assess what the proper rates are, or maybe it's just like, I mean, especially with like social media, or really with anything, like things can be very like niche or like very specific to or situational, I want to say. So it's sometimes it's hard to determine what is the best price. So basically, I've kind of discovered a solution to that, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. So like, and this is more of like my intuitive feel as to like what is the best way to deal with this. And the first way that I deal with it is I like to, whenever I like want to figure out how much I should get paid if someone's paying me, or I have a client or I'm working for someone and they're paying me, the first thing I do is put in all my expenses, figure out what my my income looks like and what it would look like with particular projections. Like if this person paid me like X amount a week, like what would that look like on in terms of like after expenses, how much am I making, like how much am I saving, what does that look like for me? Does that feel good? That's like the bottom line. The bottom question is, does that feel good to me? Am I inspired to work for that? Do I feel valued at that point? And do I feel that I can provide value that matches what they're paying me? So those are like a lot of the questions that I ask for that. And I basically get to a point where I'm like, okay, at this amount, anything lower than this amount I would be unsatisfied with, but this amount or higher I would be satisfied with. And basically I won't accept, it's like if I'm talking with my boss or like a client, like I won't accept anything below a particular number. And like that's like the bottom line, because I'm like, it's like if I'm getting paid less than that, then I won't feel good about working for someone, I won't feel valued, and in that sense I won't be able to provide value because I don't feel valued. So it's like very important for me to feel valued so that I can provide that value, and that way like kind of makes it, it justifies it in your mind. I think that's a big part of this whole process, is justifying it within your mind, justifying what you deserve, and setting like a point that like you cannot go below this point, because at that point it's not this isn't a win-win relationship, and I'll talk about that in a bit, but like this isn't a relationship that would be sustainable, I guess I would say. So that's like the first aspect of things. And then the second aspect of a way that I've been doing recently, and I learned this from my friend Hannah, who had really like kind of like showed me how to present a video proposal to a local company. And basically the whole idea behind that is really like really hitting on their why, but also really thinking about their end of things, maybe like their like what's going on their end, how are they perceiving this? Like if they're paying me this much, like what are they getting out of it? What kind of value are they receiving? And like how can what I'm doing, the value that I'm creating, directly kind of benefit them financially or like in some other way? And so like, and that's so basically like through asking those questions, there's one client that I'm going to be, speaking with soon, and basically I did that for him, and I'm like, okay, so if me doing this social media stuff is able to get him this many subscriptions to his service or to his content, then it will basically pay off what I'm doing for him. So basically this is a good goal or something that we could work up to. And so basically because I'm aware of that, I'm aware of what his needs are, and I have a goal, and like my intention is to basically like serve his needs. Like it basically, well, I think it helps to justify why I want to get paid this particular amount. It's like, by paying me this particular amount, this is what you can expect, and this is how it could like come full circle and basically like be a total win-win. And so that takes me to the win-win like relationship there. So basically we just talked about like so this payment thing. And actually, I don't know if I should go into the win-win quite yet. I'm going to hold off 1 second because I was going into educated risk-taking. The whole concept behind this was educated risk-taking. I feel like I didn't quite hit on that. So basically, going back 1 second. So basically, we have two forms of, like, two ways that we can kind of, like, I guess I would say, justify what you should be paid. And basically that first way is finding out what feels good to you, and then setting like a bottom line, like it needs to be this or else I won't feel good about that. And then secondly is like really focusing on your boss or client or whoever that is, really stepping into a role of like, if I was in their position, if I was the boss, if I owned this company or this or that, would this be a good deal for me? So, and then stepping in those shoes. And so when you see it from both perspectives, then I feel like it's a lot easier to convey your point, because you are taking into account where, you know, you've already stepped into their shoes to some extent and looked at it from that angle as well. So yeah. So all this, I think, weighs into this concept of educated risk-taking, and that I didn't quite hit. I don't feel like I really like hit it, but I think what I'm getting at with this educated risk-taking is that when you're an entrepreneur, or you're working on your own, or you're just doing any sort of project or even a creative project on your own, there are so many different dynamics that that you don't have the answers to. And so by doing it, you definitely learn what works and doesn't work. However, you definitely need to take risks along the way. That's like an absolute requirement, is taking risks. And so there's definitely like a difference between just a risk and then an educated risk. I think a risk is something that could be, you know, a risk could be like, you know, for instance, jumping off a cliff into the water, you know, off a 50-foot cliff into the water. Like that's a risk. And the reward is that you can, one, say that you jumped off a 50-foot cliff, so you can like put it in, check off your bucket list if it's on it, and you might look like manly for the ladies, or manly for whatever you're interested in. Or just like a badass, we'll just say that. And then the third thing could be like you by jumping off this cliff, like you're having fun. So the positive side is that is those things. That's the win. And then the lose is like you die, you like break your bones, you like I don't know, you drown, I don't know, you die basically. So that's like the negative. So basically in that instance, for me, I guess I would say, for me, the losses kind of outweigh the wins. And it's really not it doesn't seem as even of a risk. That's just like an idea. That's just it. And so I don't know. It could be an educated risk if you've seen people jumping there before and no one's ever gotten hurt before and blah blah blah. But you get the point. There could be like this deviation in the risk factor. But then there's like educated risks, and those are ones that where you know that it's like there are things where it's like it might seem crazy, but your intuition is definitely like is definitely saying, it's like your intuition, your heart saying that that's what you should do. You've researched, you know, like the benefits of doing that, and basically the risk would be fear-based and maybe like money-based, but nothing that would like devastate you, but that the wins would be like tremendous, would open up a bunch of new opportunities, would really like change you as a person because you did it. Like that to me is more of like an educated risk. And I think there's probably a better way that I could have gone into that, but I think it's basically more. I think if I had to compare to, I wouldn't compare it to the jumping off a cliff. That's kind of a different thing. I think probably a better risk example of a risk versus an educated risk is a risk is something where it's like you're hoping for some sort of like outlandish possibility to come true, or like you're just like, for instance, maybe like you look up like YouTube stats or like Patreon stats, and you're like, oh yeah, if I just put $5,000 into this, like I could do that. I could start a YouTube channel and make that much money and stuff like that. That might be more of like just a risk, because you haven't put much time into like the actual research component. You're kind of looking at it like this get rich quick kind of perspective, and you're kind of looking at the glamour aspects rather than like the grounded, like this is the work that needs to be done aspect. So that's probably a better version of a risk, whereas the educated risk is more of like, okay, let's look at it from the most grounded perspective possible, and like this is what my intuition's saying. It scares me a bit, it requires me to let go of a couple things that like I'm not sure about, or like there's a lot of answers that I don't have yet, and I just need to figure it out as I go, but I think I can figure it out. That's kind of like the educated risk aspect. And like here, even better version of that's just coming to me is like educated risk could be basically you have this happened a lot where like I would get gigs from basically I would learn a particular skill, and then an opportunity would come around that would basically require me to use my skill at a higher level than I've done before. So like that happened with like motion graphics, doing motion graphic work. Like I remember I learned motion graphics, done a couple small projects, and then this like bigger project came around, and it was like I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know, I'm pretty sure I can do this, but I'm not 100%, but I really think I know everything I need to do to make this happen. And so I did it. I took it because I knew that I could do it. I just hadn't done it before. I just knew I could do it, and it turned out really great, and it opened up a whole new level of possibilities. So it was like I guess that's even closer to like an educated risk, where it's like you have the tools and the skills, you know what they are, but you maybe haven't used them yet, and you're confident that you can make it happen, and you're committed, and your intention is good. Your intention is there to make it happen and provide the best possible service. So yeah, so I think how that relates back to like paying people or getting paid, it's just definitely one of those things where I think you need to really like, it's like, okay, acquire the tools, the skills to be able to do something like that, or the experience to like just see how it's done, and then when an opportunity arises where you can do it, just jump on that. And that's basically what's been going on in my life. The opportunity's coming around, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna jump on that, I'm gonna try that, I'm gonna see how that works. So that basically leads into the second point, which is on creating win-win relationships. I think like it's in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of like running a business, in terms of doing any sort of creative project with anyone, any just relationship in general. For me, it's like it's important for those to be win-win. Like if there's any sort of win-lose, whenever there's a win-lose or like a win-lose, lose-lose, that just sounds terrible. It's like, why would you ever want to do that? Win-lose is basically you taking advantage of someone else, or someone else taking advantage of you. And like, yeah, there are times when like you do work for people and you don't get paid for it. But like there should always be like, it should be because I get this crazy amount of experience and I'm going to be like a different person because of it, or like we're working together and we're collaborating and it's going to lead to bigger and greater things. Like, that's fine, but ultimately I love like win-win relationships, and especially, even in creative projects, I think it's like, it is good to like pay people, or, it is good to have that exchange there so that you can keep it win-win. But yeah, in life, win-win is, to me, it's the best way to go. And if your mind is constantly focused on creating win-wins for other people, with other people, I think ultimately like your relationships are going to be awesome, because like there's always going to be that sense of balance. and having a win-win relationship requires you to be conscious of the choices, and the decisions that you're making with other people. And when, there are definitely times when it goes from a win-win to like maybe a win-lose, but that might just be something that's temporary, or like it might have to do with the situation, and so that's where a conversation just needs to be had, and you move into that. So, but basically, what I'm saying with regards to that is like, yeah, win-win is definitely the way to go. Like in terms of business, in terms of like that's one thing. Like starting my company, it's like that's just gonna be such a huge component. I want people to feel like they are winning, like they do have, like there is a great like there is a great kind of exchange happening, and it's like totally positive and totally helping both sides, and like the work that you're putting in is equivalent to the value that you're getting back. It's just like there's this equal exchange, and that exchange is growing. It's like the exchange gets bigger, and so it's like you're moving up together rather than just one person going up, like kind of like this, There needs to be that sense of growth, and needs to be that sense of evolution, and I think that it all can evolve at the same time, as long as you're focused on, creating that sort of win-win mentality. So yeah, those are two of the things that I just want to talk about because they've been on my mind lately, and it's like doing the entrepreneurship thing, working for yourself. Those aspects they're very challenging, and there's so many things that you have to learn and understand, and like there's it's mostly has to do with relationships, and like and the relationship you have with yourself and the relationship you have with other people, and knowing that it's truly fascinating. So I'm excited to be on this journey, and hopefully that was useful, just kind of like my intuitive understandings, and I'm sure I will have a much more clear understanding as I go through this year. 2017, I think for me is going to be like a big year for me, like really like breaking out and doing my own thing. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, if you guys have any thoughts about that, would love to hear it. But anyways, I'm going to head out. Hope you all have an amazing day. And yeah, peace and love, my friends.